Okay, so we're going to talk about contour labels next here. So page 4 of the notes. Now there's a few things that we need to go over here when we are talking about our contour labels, and also when we are talking about the spacing of the contour lines that Revit shows on the screen. So if you folks zoom in on the site plan, and you can see here we've got a major contour, the darker black line, and we've got minor contours, the thinner black lines. Now the line weights for your major and minor contours are controlled by the same dialog box that controls all of your line weights in Revit. What dialog box do you use to change your line weights in Revit? Anybody? Object styles, right? Manage tab, object styles. So moments ago we looked at the topography material so that we could change the material from earth to grass. So you can change materials in object styles, but really what we use object styles for is to control line weights. So when we print, we get the line weights that we want. Well, here under topography we have our primary and secondary contours. So if you want to change the thickness or the color of your contours, like for instance if you want to make your secondary contours so they're 50% gray, you could switch the secondary contours from being black to being 50% gray, and you can look in the background here and you can see that the contours have indeed turned gray where they were once before black. Now, so we're going to talk about contour spacing and we're going to talk about the contour labels. So on the Massing and Site tab, we have the contour label tool. And basically with the contour label tool, you just draw a line across your site plan and it will put contour labels on your topography. So you just draw that line across the screen and there you go. So every single contour label gets a number. Slight problem, we're in Canada, so we want to see meters. So it's in the type properties of your contours. We can change the units of the contours. And I mean, what a crazy country we are. We'll have a building that's dimensioned in feet and inches, and then you look at the site plan and on all the contour labels are in decimal meters. This is a very strange country we live in. So folks, when you're using the contour label tool here, you can go to its type properties. So go to Massing and Site. There's your contour labels command. Go right over to edit type. And you can see that there's a units format box there. Go into that thing, change it to meters to 1 decimal place. Make sure you're using the M at the end. So instead of project settings at the top here, we're going to use meters to 1 decimal place. And we'll add the M at the end. There you go, meters, 1 decimal place, and we're going to put the M at the end. So our contour labels are going to show meters instead of feet. So that's all good. Except now, our contour labels don't make any sense. That's because right now the contour spacing for the project is set to 1 foot intervals. So we need to change that. So first of all, we want to set our contour labels so they're looking at meters. We've just done that. But now we need to go to the hardest dialog box that you'll ever find in Revit. It's called the Site Settings dialog box. It's on page 4 of our notes. And to get at it, there's only one way that you can get at it. You go to the model site label on this part of the ribbon, so you can see it right underneath my cursor here, and you hit this little arrow. Right? Now you really are part of the Revit cult. You found the secret entrance into the Site Settings dialog box. So here's the deal. In this dialog box, You're getting your major contours every 10 feet. So at the top here, these are your major contours. So the big black lines in the background here. And then our minor contours are here under the additional contours. So that's minor contours. Right now they're set to 1 foot intervals. So what I want to do is set our intervals for major contours to 5 meters. So put in 5M. So even on an imperial project, you can specify 5-meter intervals, just like you're seeing there. 5M will do it. And then it'll convert it to imperial as soon as I keep going here. So 16'4". Don't worry about it. It's still 5 meters. And we're going to set our minor contours to 1 meter intervals. Hit OK. So there you go. Look at that. Our contour labels are now making sense. Now, of course, the green and yellow lines are the AutoCAD contours from that file, which were at 1 foot intervals. That's why they're not lining up. The contours that you folks get from your surveyor will be in meters. And so once you've gone through the process of setting your Revit contours to be at some sort of meter interval instead of foot interval, the Revit contours will then line up with your surveyor's contours. So over to page 5, I'll get you folks to read the note about graded regions. We'll talk about that next week when we introduce phasing. So next week we talk about phasing and how you can draw an existing building and then a renovation to that existing building, and Revit can handle all of that. And read these notes. We'll come to that next week. Now, we are going to get into the recommended process. What in the world? We're going to get into the process of how you truly model the site for your project. Okay, so you guys can save this file right now. Not that you need to submit it, just so that you're, you know, anything that you've kind of done tonight, you can recall it. So you can save this file right now and just put it someplace where you can refer to it later. We're going to move on to the next part of tonight's festivities. Okay. Now, this is the term project AutoCAD drawing that you're using for modeling the site. You folks can see that there are contour lines at different Z coordinates. These contour lines are in meters. So this is the site model file that's in the term project directory. And you folks can see that the property lines and the road lines, so this is a real project, a real winery-based neighborhood. That doesn't sound good. I'm not saying that these people were buying into this neighborhood because they had a drinking problem, but there was going to be a winery at the end of the block. So you could just leave your car at the home and have a few bottles of wine and stumble your way home. Road lines and the letdowns for driveways, you can see they're all at Z equals 0, and the topographic information is floating above. That is what you want to see from your surveyor when you bring in their file. Now, I'm going to build the topo surface here. Don't worry about doing this yourself, folks. I'm just going to enter K. Okay, now, here is our site model. If we go back to the project setup handout, remember that we wanted to have our main floor at 100 feet. What if my site, where I'm going to be building my project, and folks, we're going to be building the term project, our winery that we're building as part of our term project, is going to be built on these 3 sites at the corner. And we're going to build them up high here, sort of up in the corner, on the high part of the site. And the elevation here is approximately 300 feet above sea level. How do we make it where our floor says 100 feet, but it's actually 300 feet above sea level? How do we deal with that? Well, the easy way to deal with this is to link your building into another file. That other file is the model for your site. 2 files for every project. So you build the model for your site in one file. It'll have your topographic model. It'll have your property lines. And then that will get inserted into your building. But as you see, what we're going to do is we're going to link the building first into the site and place the building where we want it on the property, both in plan and then in elevation. So that way we can put our building in its proper orientation on the site and its proper elevation above sea level. And it's going to make things a lot simpler for us to plan our sites, to set up our sites, and to deal with all kinds of the issues that we've been talking about with Project North, True North, all of that stuff. So let's go to page 7 of the big handout here, and we're going to go through this process together. So you have two files, a building model that your building will be in, and a site model that your site will be in. And to walk us through that process, in our session 1 folder, we've got 2 files that are more or less ready to go. House project -site and house project -building. So what I want you folks to do is go back into Revit here and go and open the house project site. So when we open this file up, here's the site plan in our site model. So again, the reason we don't model the building in the same file as our site is that we can bring the building in, link it in like an XREF, and move it into place where we want it, and then we can adjust its Z elevation after we've imported it. So this site model has our property lines, which you folks can see, and has the setbacks all drawn up. And now we're going to link in our building. So the process of creating a site model, I want you folks to see the notes there. We'll go over that in detail in terms of linking the building in. We're going to do that right now. So we're going to skip the first 4 steps. We've gone through that already here tonight as a group. And now we're going to go to step 5, where we are going to link in the building onto the site. And so that process is linking in the building, and now we're going to start talking about shared coordinates. So the building will be linked onto the site, moved into place, and then there's this whole thing called shared coordinates, which we talk about, and we're going to share the coordinates between the building and site so that the building knows where it sits above sea level. The building will also know if you've rotated it on site. So if I bring in my house and I rotate it 15 degrees clockwise, we can tell the building, you've been rotated 15 degrees off north. And the building will recognize that. And you're going to see it's a really simple solution. So once the building has been linked onto the site, we tell the building, here's where you sit. We'll go through that process in a few seconds. And then, once that's been done, you can open up the building and link the site into the building. Everybody's like, what? Any hardcore AutoCAD people here? What would you call that in AutoCAD with an XREF? Anybody know? If you link A into B and then turn around and link B into A, does anybody know what they call that in AutoCAD? Circular referencing. AutoCAD won't let you do it. It'll tell you you've got a circular reference going on, and it'll tell you no dice. That's not what it'll tell you. It's not going to let you do it. So what's going to happen in Revit? So this is a real simplified version of what's going on in our notes. We're going to take the building and we're going to link it into the site. So here we've got our land, and we're going to take our building and we're going to place it where we want it on the site. So we're going to move it and plan in whichever direction that we want, and then we're going to move it up and down so that it's at the correct height with respect to the dirt. So that's step one, link the building into the site. Then, the second step, we take the site and we link it back into the building. Now in this case, it's totally automatic. We're going to have our building sitting here with all our sheets and our details and everything in it. And we just link the site in, and it's automatically going to show up in the location that we want it. Nothing to do. This is, it's auto magic. Once we've linked the building onto the site and placed it, when we turn around and link the site into the building so we can see the building in its context, nothing to do. And it's the magic of shared coordinates. And that's what we're going to get into now. So on page 7 is the steps and the theory behind it, so you folks can do this with your own project. And step 8 talks about how the geometry for the site plan, setbacks, notes, dimensions, how that's done on step 8, and 2 different files and the process. So go ahead and read through that, because I'm not going to cover that tonight just because of the sake of time. On page 9 now, we are going to go into Revit and we're going to do an example of this together where we link these 2 files all together right now as a group. So you folks need to open up that house project dash site, and it should have you in the site plan, page 9 of your notes. Okay, so second paragraph, open the house project site file and open the section 1 section view. There we go, section 1 in the browser, there it is. Notice that the project base point and survey point are at the same location. So this time, in the site, you're not moving the project base point, you're not moving the survey point, they just sit there. Now remember, earlier we were talking about project setup and how we take the survey point and we move it down until we got to sea level. How do you know where sea level is? Don't know. So this process that we're going to go through right here will automatically set sea level properly in your building. It will move the survey point in your building so that it is at sea level and you don't have to think about it. Next paragraph, from the Insert tab, choose Link Revit. So on the far left, Link Revit. And now what you want to do is choose the house project building file. Choose auto by shared coordinates for the positioning option at the bottom. Auto by shared coordinates, right there. Now what does this mean? Shared coordinates is a way that two separate Revit files can be linked together and have their 3D locations coordinated between those two files. The hosting file and the file that's getting linked in. Except this hasn't been set up yet, and we're going to see that in a second. So what's Revit saying? The host model and the link do not share the same coordinate system. What does that mean? Shared coordinates between these files has not been shared. We are going to do that now. Okay, you should see the dialog. This is okay, as the two files are not yet linking their shared coordinates. Next paragraph. Open the section 1 view and change the view's visual style to wireframe so you can see the building. There we go. There's our building. Now it says you can select the building and move it up 58.7 meters. Let's not be so anal retentive. Let's use the arrow keys and you can just nudge it upwards. If it's going too slowly, hit the shift button and then the arrow key, and that'll move it up faster. All we want to do is get the building above ground so that the basement stoop, or the entry there of the door, you can see it here on my screen. There's the column coming down for the basement, and there's the basement entrance. We want that to sit above ground. So there's your ground that we're looking at. There's our basement, and we want it to just be sitting out of the ground. And its exact height, don't care. All we're interested in is getting the building out of the ground. Now, I've kind of skipped over that paragraph with open the section 1 view. We've moved on to the next paragraph here. Actually, no, I'll stick in that paragraph. In the site plan, align the building with the west property line, then place it 1.26 meters from the west setback line. So now that the building is high enough that we could see it in the site plan, because before, ladies and gentlemen, we would not be able to see the building in a site plan. Why? Because it had been buried. When we first brought it into this project, it was underground. So the first order of business was just to grab it in section, or you could do it in 3D. Right? So let me just go back to where it was. I'll have a bunch of undos to do here. There we go. Right? This is how it looked. There's the topography, and there's my site. So if I'd wanted to, I could do it in 3D here and just move the building up until I was happy with where it was sitting here. Use my arrow keys, bring it up. So I could do it 3D, I could do it in section, whatever. There's our building. It's above ground now. Now in my site plan, the instructions are align the building with the west property line. So I'm going to align it with my setback here. So there's my building. So where's the align tool? Align, align, align. Right there. Align. So in the site plan, select the building. You can see that there's the align tool. And it says place it 1.26 meters from the west setback line. So click and click. There it is there. And so once it's aligned, I'll click it and move it 1.26 meters. And then it says 8 meters from the north setback line. 8 meters from the north setback? Okay, all right. Okay, it doesn't really matter where we put it. That's not the point. Once we are happy with the building's location on site, and once we are happy with the building's elevation with respect to the site, and you can see that when you put your cursor over it, Revit treats that linked building as a thing. It's a monolithic block, it's a single entity as far as Revit is concerned in this file. So that we've linked the building in, we've got its height sorted, and now we've got it in its correct place. Second last paragraph on page 9. Now we're going to tell the house, we're going to tell the building where it lives in the universe. The site is telling the building where it is. So when you select the building, over in the properties palette, you'll see here it says shared site, not shared. So when you click on the not shared button, now we're going to publish the coordinates of the site back to the building. What does that mean? Well, it means our site is setting sea level. When you go through the process of importing the surveyor's CAD file into the original level 1 in a blank template as discussed in the notes, and you build your topography, the topography is obviously at its correct elevation above sea level. You bring in your model, link it in, move it into place and plan, elevate it until it's the height that you need it to be with respect to the elevation of your site. And then you publish coordinates to the building, telling it where it sits with respect to the real world. This is setting up the geodetic elevation of your building. Hit reconcile, and you're done. So what's happened? Well, what's happened actually I'll do it in the section. Okay, here's the section view. You see where the project base point and the survey point are in the site? They're down here at 0. They're not going to move. But in the building, its survey point was up here with the building seconds ago. Then when we hit publish coordinates, that takes the survey point in the building and moves it so that it's in the same location as the one that's in the site. So what happens is your building takes on the same shared coordinates as your site. So this is going to set up your building site above sea level, and it's also going to set project north and true north. Let's go back to the site plan. Anybody got a question? Yes?
So is it editing my...
Yes. It is making a small little edit to your building. All it's doing is it's relocating your survey point and also rotating the green axis, the north-south axis of shared coordinates in the building.
Will I have a problem if someone else is using it?
No, no issue there. Let's go back to the site plan. So right now, our building is just horizontally located on the screen. What if we rotate the building a little bit to take advantage of the view? So folks, in the site plan, grab the building, grab the rotate icon, and just rotate it some angle and just move it to a different location. Just drag and drop it. Drag it to a different location on the site plan. The rotation that you choose and the movement of the building on the site, you can send that information back to the building. So the building will know its new location on site. So, to prove this, I want you folks to go to File and choose Close. So what we're doing is we're going to leave this file now, and we're going to go into the site. File, Close. So of course, you want to save the changes that you've made to this file. But now we're going to see another interesting dialog. Now again, this is a case of where it looks like English, but it's somewhat incomprehensible as to what's going on. You've changed the quote current unquote position in the building. What do you want to do? I want to call my mom. What Revit is telling you is that you've relocated the linked building. Do you want to save the changed location of the building back to the building? Yes. So just go ahead and hit save. So on the way out, Revit saves the new location of the linked building and tells the building you've been moved, you've been rotated, heads up. So now, what we're going to do is go and open the building. So open the building, not the backup copy, the .001. Open House Project Building. All right, and let's go into the 3D view. Okay, where's the site? It's not here yet. So this is the second step. So the first step is harder. We link the building into the site, and we got to move it into place. And it's actually not that hard. But now linking the site into the building is super easy because shared coordinates have now been set up. By linking the building into the site and publishing coordinates to the building, shared coordinates is ready to go. So now we can go to the Insert tab and go to Link Revit. Link in the site, not the copy, and not the 001. House Project Site, auto by shared coordinates, hit open. You're not going to hear a peep from Revit. Boom. Your site's exactly where it's supposed to be with respect to the building. Let's go to the site plan. So here's the site plan in the building. See what it says? Project North. Switch it to True North. Would you look at that? So the rotation that I did to my building on the site plan automatically sets up my True North. That means you could be like 20, no more than that, 30 or 40 IQ points like lower, and you can still make this work. Right? Like, this makes it easier to set up your True North and Project North. Remember that stuff about rotating True North and all that stuff? This is easier, right? I'm all about making things so that it's easier to do, because just getting through part 3 of the building code already requires us to be geniuses, right? And dealing with conversions and units and dealing with our consultants, it's all painful. So this process of linking the building into site, moving into place, publishing coordinates, and then coming back and linking the site back into the building, everything's fixed. So it's a far easier process. You'll notice here that we don't see our annotations from the site plan, which is modeled in that other file. So let's go through that one process of bringing that back in. Type in VV. So here in the site plan for our building, this is explained in the notes, you'll see it all in there. We're now going to link in the site plan view. So we can see it here, so you can see the setbacks, we can see the dimensions, all that stuff. Go to the Revit Links tab. So on this tab, we need to tell Revit that instead of our linked site just appearing by the settings of the view that we're looking at right now, switch from by host view. So right there where it says by host view, click it. And in this dialog box, choose by linked view and choose the site plan from the linked file and hit OK and hit OK. And there it is. Those dimensions and the setbacks are not in my building. They're from the other file. They're from the site. So in the notes, it'll talk about how you should set up your site model with its annotations, because you're building a site plan in there that all your annotations will come from. Now, I think that is enough brain damage for tonight. I think you're all actually doing reasonably well. I am not. So I'm going to finish off for tonight, and we'll pick up on the editing the topple surface points next week. So there's an exercise on page 11. We'll do that all together first thing next week, and when we're feeling a little bit more fresh. Okay, so that's it. So these videos will be uploaded to YouTube. So if you've forgotten anything from tonight, probably on the weekend sometime, I will upload these to YouTube so you guys can review the material that we covered tonight.